Fascinating.
É isso aí, galera, mais um vídeo com o melhor da década. Se você é fã dos anos 80, não deixe de se inscrever aqui e acompanhar essa viagem no tempo com os discos, músicas, as melhores bandas dos anos 80 que fizeram história da nossa infância e adolescência. Não deixe de se inscrever.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, good evening, and welcome to The No Show.
In Joy Division, we'd worked for 4 or 5 years. Making this group successful, we'd wrote a whole set of songs, and suddenly it was gone, suddenly it was decimated. I think the beauty of New Order is that we overcame that, and we did stay together as friends. And we became perhaps even more successful than Joy Division. I think that's quite an achievement, really.
This is the story of New Order. It's a relentless story of beginnings and endings, of excess and cunning, of pride and immaturity. It's the most curious and chaotic of rock stories, and who's to say that it really happened? From a shadowy underground, first as Warsaw, then as Joy Division, their distress songs about depravity and deprivation seemed to shake and writhe out of deep, craven trouble. Their music was fantastic. Not many noticed, because after 2 volatile, intimate albums, just as Joy Division were heading off into their own sensational rock adventure, maybe even to become perverse superstars, their singer, Ian Curtis, snagged on the jagged edge between the pleasure of it all and the pain, killed himself. This was some end. 4 years, hard work disintegrated. This is a story of New Order and how they endured, how they rebuilt, how they began again, changed their mind and the whole body of what they were because of a death, a new girl member, a change of name, an adoring manager, because of obscure disco music and Manchester nightlife, because they cared. Because they couldn't care less. Because you have to laugh. Because you have to cry. This is a story of New Order who turned pop life into something maddening and perilous. They longed for success and recognition, yet needed to keep themselves to themselves, wanting reassuring glamour and chaste anonymity all at once. They could assign to any record company in the world, and on the sly sold as many records as any group ever has, in fear or in defiance of a normal fate. They obliquely, indulgently, stayed with their willfully uncommercial Manchester independent record label, Factory Records. This was the only label on earth romantic enough to let the group do what they pleased, how they pleased, when they pleased. They were very pleased. Even when they signed to a major American label, they were allowed to be as dreamy as they liked. The group was spoiled, and they audaciously sneaked out of the shadows of Joy Division to become the most elusive and drastically sardonic of pop groups, and the very edge again of becoming almost lifelike anti-superstars. They must have known exactly what they were doing. This is the story of New Order. A story that begins with the story of another group.
I have to have my mask on for this, hold on. All right. Come on. Steve, come on. That wasn't too hard.
The story of Joy Division.
Ian Curtis, our ex-lead singer, Heady Dave, became epileptic, which put me under a lot of tension.
Let's go and meet the band. Stephen, your name is?
I'm Stephen Keith.
Yes, I know that. Your whole name's Stephen?
My whole name is Stephen Paul David Morris.
Stephen Paul David Morris. Bit of a mouthful there.
Bit of a mouthful, Keith, yes.
And Gillian would know all about that.
She certainly would.
Gillian, what exactly do you do in the band?
Well, I'm not quite sure here, but play a bit of keyboards.
Play a bit of keyboards. A bit louder, darling. Playing with the keyboards. She's laughing. She's a bit
guitar,
nervous.
yes.
And guitar.
I am nervous,
Guitar
yes.
and keyboards. Ladies and gentlemen, I know a little something about Stephen and Gillian that a lot of you viewers at home probably don't know. They live together and they're very much in love. Big hands for Stephen and Gillian. What's your name, love?
Peter.
Peter.
Hook.
Peter Hook. And what do you do in the band, Peter?
I play bass, drink a lot, fall over.
Fall over, drink a lot, steal people's samples.
No.
Don't do much of that. Lovely. And what exactly is it that you do? Your name is fully?
Bernard Sumner.
Bernard Sumner. And Bernard in the band?
I drink the rider.
He drinks the rider, ladies and gentlemen.
Because we didn't believe in riders, so there was no drink in the dressing room.
What is Tony Wilson's occupation?
I got it. TV presenter.
TV presenter, anything else?
Twat.
That was very inconsiderate.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the popular music ensemble, New Order. Let's go mad.
You bastard, Steve.
The phrase "you bastard" did come to my lips in the sense that, you know, you've left us to deal with all this stuff. You just got out. A kind of annoyance, really. And then those lines from the album, "You take my place in the showdown, I observe with a pitiful eye," or whatever. You know, it's like, yeah, we'd taken his place in the showdown. He got out. And there was a lot of nightmares to come, in particular this bloody place. And he should have shared them. You know, he started the whole thing. He should have gone through the shit with us. So there was that annoyance, that someone who copped out of a trip.
Who's the laziest member of the group?
Ian Curtis.
What do it?
I've never seen him do anything for years.
Yeah, people die. Are you going to blame me?
And the first time we saw Joy Division, it was at the Stiff Cheswick thing, really, and it was the last group on, and it was just completely weird because he was so different.
The second time I saw them, which is when I remember seeing them, you know, I thought they were really good, brilliant.
If you don't know who Rob Gretton is, who is he?
Our manager.
He's the manager of the band, ladies and gents. Big round of applause.
Most people that you see perform, they perform. And the most extraordinary thing about Ian was that he would come on and it'd be like that.
Anyway, we love the man and we love the band. They were an original of the species that later became goth. Never mind.
I'm aware now that he was in trouble, but yeah, there were signs before, but nobody realised how serious it was. You know. I think we were all too busy having a good time, including Ian. You know, well, he must have been having that good a time, but he appeared to be having a good time. You know.
And how did he die?
By going home to watch Trocheck, at the end of which the final words are, "There's a dead man in the cable car and the chicken's still dancing." At which point he decided to listen to some Iggy Pop and put a rope around his neck.
Why do you think he did it?
Secret.
Love Will Tear Us Apart came out. I kind of rushed out and bought that. And that was, I just thought it was a really fabulous song. Sort of a song I would like to have written myself, you know. I mean, I still think it's one of the most beautiful pop songs ever written.
Love will tear us apart someday.
No, we always said we've got to carry on. And we didn't quite anticipate the circumstances, you know, beforehand.
Now, what was the name of Ian Curtis's dog? Anybody?
Candy.
Candy, well done. OK, ladies and gentlemen.
What was that dog?
And they had the most charismatic lead singer of his generation. I mean, Bono once said to me, he was the best. I was always the number two. He was the best, but, you know, I'll do it anyway. Now he's gone. And I think Bono did do it. I mean, I've never been a massive U2 fan, but when I saw him, that wonderful performance at Live Aid, I thought, well, there you are. But Ian would have been better, even better. And, yes, bigger than Pink Floyd if he'd lived.
Wilson took me out one day in his poxy Peugeot estate and took me up to a studio up in Moston or someone like that in North Manchester and said to me, "Hark my words, this is like when Syd Barrett left the Floyd and New Order are going to be like the Pink Floyd. They're going to, in 3 albums' time, they'll be selling millions in America."
We're going to attempt to deal with a phenomena in music called New Order. Who are they? What are they? Why?
I think maybe they came into being despite someone's suicide. I think that was the point. I mean, it's not as if you did it, you know, because Ian killed himself. You did it because you wanted to carry on. Because you were enjoying what you did. I mean, it was like somebody had snatched the prize off you after you'd won it, you know, and you thought, right, you know, we're going to go all out and get it back.
If we got another singer in it, it'd be like Joy Division 2. really, and whoever you got in would be under a lot of pressure and be like comparisons with Ian and stuff like that. That we definitely knew we weren't going to do. So let's have the singer sweepstake, which Bernard drew the short straw on.
Well, I didn't view it as being difficult taking over from Ian, because I considered it an honour, really.
Describe the album covers. Gillian, movement.
Blue.
Very good.
It was Rob's suggestion that we got Gillian in, who had actually appeared with Joy Division at Eric's.
So we did a gig at Eric's in Liverpool and as Joy Division. And just before the concert, Rob Gretton, our manager, hit me on the hand with a bottle.
Who said they were all on drugs? Ludicrous!
No, we were fooling about in the dressing room with bottles, and I tried to hit him and he tried to hit me, and his bottle hit my hand. And it cut my hand and I couldn't play. So I played through half the set, didn't I? Ironically, in a song called I Remember Nothing.
Guitar on that one as well. If it was Ian that played guitar on that one.
Let's not get overcomplicated. Anyway, Gillian came on. Gillian came on. And
out of the audience.
Gillian came on and did one of the songs with us, so that was the first time she played with us.
And I thought, God, my mum and dad had never let me join a group. But they said, oh yeah, why don't you do it?
We thought, when Ian dies, she'd be the perfect replacement.
In fact, there's a rumour that she killed him.
The Order, yes. How did that happen? The Order was Rob's suggestion. It's Rob Gretton, our manager.
But what was all the stuff with the Nazi imagery? I mean, risky.
We really thought it didn't have any connotations, and we thought that it was a neutral name, it didn't mean much, and that a name becomes you after you've had it for about 6 months anyway.
Well, I thought it was just like a new lineup, so I looked at it on that way. I didn't think it meant
Order of the Group.
Yeah.
That would be really bleeding corny, that one.
Well, that's me.
Tony called and said that the band was plugging on. It was going to be called New Order. I went to the show. I have to confess, I wasn't expecting much. Although I liked the band, I thought this was really quixotic. But I was stunned by how good the band was. And those qualities that had originally been there were still in the band. I mean, they didn't die with Ian Curtis.
The first thing we did was Ceremony, and In a Lonely Place, where Ian had written the lyrics the week before he died. And what we did was we had rehearsal tapes of those two songs, and we put them through a graphic equaliser to try and find out what his lyrics were. So maybe I helped a little bit there. Because I'm quite a personal, a private person, and I like keeping my thoughts to myself. I don't even like doing this interview now, and I'm the kind of person who likes to stand in a corner and watch everyone else, and I don't wake up in the morning and go, hey, I've got a message for the world, because I haven't got a message for the world. Unless I really dig deep, and then perhaps I have.
Chris wrote this little song once called I'm Keeping My Fingers Crossed, and the bass line went umpa, 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 umpa. And then about a week later, this fabulously packaged New Order record and its sort of computer software cover came in. I thought, oh great, it's a New Order single. And that sort of like Everything's Gone Green, the previous one. And then I put it on, this umpa, 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 and I nearly burst into tears, because this was so much what Chris and I were trying to do. I remember phoning up Chris and saying, well, we may as well give up now.
We read that book about Led Zeppelin, you see. We thought that if we performed Sacrifices in our rehearsal room in Salford, then maybe we could attain some of the success that Led Zeppelin got.
Well, fortunately we didn't do it till we actually left the place.
We pledged our souls to the devil. And we got Blue Monday after that.
I don't know, but I'd have thought that if you'd have been involved in something that was very dark and that thing had happened, you would want to go away from it. You'd want to get lighter, just out of relief.
We sacrificed the sheep in the rehearsal room, and then we had Blue Monday as our first hit.
Kicking off with New Order, playing live, singing live with Blue Monday.
I like the sleeve a lot, actually, especially the fact that it cost a fortune. I thought that was quite ironic. They had the biggest selling record of all time. And I think we did make a profit on it, didn't we, Rob?
I don't think so, no.
How important has Rob Gretton been?
Well, he stopped us doing Sunkissed advert, which was a shame because we got offered, I think it was $200,000 to use the music for Blue Monday, but exchange the lyrics with ones that were flattering towards their particular soft drink. Sunkissed is the one.
Sunkissed is the one.
Singing in the sun. Yeah.
Singing in the sun.
They were very good, very good. So what we did in the studio was that I had the lyrics on my lyrics stand, but on the mixing desk I had a big piece of cardboard with $200,000 painted on it right in front of me while I was singing the lyrics, but I just couldn't stop laughing.
That's the end of the first half of this evening's edition of the Oh No Show. Please make sure you don't leave us. Go and make a cup of tea, drop an E, come back in 2 minutes. Thank you very much indeed.
How does it feel when a new day has begun? When you're drinking in the sunshine, sun-kissed is the one.
When you want to drink in the sun, there's only one. Go on, drink it in. Sun-kissed, regular or diet.
When you need a taste for living, sun-kissed is the one.
I don't believe in reincarnation because I refuse to come back as a bug or as a rabbit.
You know, you're a real up person.
And also we're going to try an attempt to understand the rise and fall of factory records. Before we address the serious issues, let's just try and understand New Order.
This is the tantalizing story of New Order. Prima donna pranksters making an alternative spectacle of themselves, saying that pop music can be more than mere entertainment, perhaps admitting that they were guilty of something, but they weren't quite sure what. Introverted hedonists, mock heroes, they created out of somewhere a thinking fan's dance music, a smart, grave mix of high tension, machine energy, weird wit, and thwarted passion.
The change didn't just come with New York, it came from influences. Blue Monday was influenced by Sylvester, by Kraftwerk. I remember Ian, even in the days of Joy Division, Ian used to bring Kraftwerk records to rehearsals and play them and said, listen to this, it's something new, you know, it's something fantastic. He used to play Kraftwerk before we went on stage as Joy Division. So the synthesizer influence came from that, really. I guess it came from Ian. Maybe he knew, and maybe he was showing us the way on. Who knows?
They were definitely clocking the right records. You know, Kraftwerk obviously, you know, meant something to them, and you know, Patrick Cowley maybe meant something to them, and you know, the people that were working with Sylvester before that. And I think that's why inevitably they went in search of people like Arthur Baker and John Roby.
I was real successful with Planet Rock and also Walking on Sunshine, so I think they came over because they wanted to get funky. I don't know if they really wanted to be accepted by New York or be accepted back in Manchester, making these records that kids were dancing to in the hacienda. You know, but the idea that also Barney was sort of aware of these Italian disco records, because when we did Confusion, the Italian disco influence was definitely in there. They were like, and also another group that he always talks about is Chic. He really liked sort of the guitar, chic type guitar thing.
What kind of keeps you going doing it?
The money.
I trust Rob because I don't know any different. Or do I?
Oh, he's great, Rob Gretton. Rob Gretton is, in fact, the attitude of New Order in many ways. Most managers, the traditional role of the manager is to smooth things over, to make life easier. Rob Gretton's role in New Order is to roughen things up to make life more difficult and to make sure that they retain true to the original ideals.
allowed by Factory to treat with languid scorn the conventions of rock self-promotion, to grow up in private. They treated their success with a mixture of embarrassment, relish, and outsiders' irreverence. Some said they were taking the piss. Others respected them for their sureness of taste and instinctive integrity. New Order were just having a laugh and having a cry and seeing the world and knowing that anything might happen. Whatever else was happening along the way, the most extraordinary people were becoming part of the story.
First remember when talking about this group that was influenced by the Sex Pistols, but at that time I didn't understand it because I thought they were much better than the Sex Pistols musically. This was around the time of, around the time I would just become aware of Kraftwerk and some other of the techno-pop groups, but New Order was always different as human beings, as musicians and everything, and they were funky. And they had tight time, because naturally when you're dealing with sequences, you know, the time's going to be nailed down with spikes, which I loved. And they knew how to really deal with dance music.
You just said we didn't have any. No, I didn't say we didn't have any influences. Didn't say. You said we didn't know what kind of noise we were going to make.
Right, yeah. Oh, right. I'm sorry for disagreeing with you there then, Steve.
No, you're coming off at a tangent now, I think.
You're getting a bit thin on top, you know.
You take so much for granted now that, of course, everyone does it. You know, U2 do it, Depeche do it, everyone does it. You know, it's just so normal, you know. But then it wasn't. It was really strange. So, yeah, it was, they were ahead of their time in that sense.
Careful, Roby.
See what they call that Abdul's last record. Execute Public Enemy. And Roby is in here.
How you doing?
So would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm John Roby, as you know, and I guess I'm here to talk about New Order. I think they're very secular, you know. I think the essence is to maintain exactly what they are, whether it be illusion or not, you know. I'm not really sure they're anything more than illusion.
Well, I think just the fact that the marriage of sort of what they did with sort of New York hip-hop sort of gave impetus to, you know, a lot of the other groups, you know, Happy Mondays, Stereo MCs, a lot of the groups coming out of England, that the whole techno thing, the whole, you know, they sort of made it cool to make a dance record.
Things seem to get done with them in spite of themselves. You know, they put out an energy, they get somebody to work with them, they go in the studio and things happen. I don't know who plays what, I don't know what happens, I don't know how it happens, but somehow it happens. It's sort of like, it's like children, it's like a bunch of children, you know? And at the end of the day, there'll be a record on the table.
Who directed the video for Perfect Kiss? Stephen?
Jonathan Silence of the Lambs Demi.
Jonathan Silence of the Lambs Demi, that will do. Well done, Stephen. You're roaring into a lead here.
They make it work for them. You know, they lay down the rules that to me that represents what people think of themselves. You know, what rules they lay down for themselves. You know, what they expect out of it. You know, and they make it very clear, and I like that.
Yes, I think the way they presented themselves in terms of their sleeves and adverts always impressed Chris and I. They sort of didn't care about traditional pop designs.
With the New Order sleeves, you helped create a very unusual entertainment secret, didn't you?
Yeah, it was the notion that the fans knew about something that wasn't so publicly on display. There was an interesting piece in the New York Times by a guy called John Perellis that I think he titled "How Cool Is Coldness," and he raised the proposition of a mass-produced secret, something that you know, between 100,000 and 500,000 pop fans knew about, that wasn't part of the sort of public marketing machinery, that they would go in and find a New Order album even though it didn't say New Order on the front.
Stephen, do you understand Peter Saville?
No. Go, another myth, right? Don't do interviews, right? The silent group, won't talk to the press. It was, you know, the lead singer had died. The only question worth asking is, why did he kill himself, and how did you feel at the time? And they didn't want to answer that question. So they didn't do interviews. So they become the group that doesn't talk to the press. It was bullshit.
Myth number one, New Order are a band who don't give interviews, which is actually the most asked question in interviews. Why don't you give interviews? Very strange. It was just because of that fact, really, that we weren't trying to make ourselves out as sort of, oh, we're carrying on despite our tragic loss.
Same question again. I remember that one. I think it's to see whether to prove that we can be successful. Really, you know, it's to prove something, but I'm not quite sure what.
It's been raining a lot here today, hasn't it?
It has.
Yeah, it got really wet. It's a good
earlier.
job that this concert is indoors.
Gillian, what do you like about Burnham?
It's a bit personal, actually.
Do tell. I like that one.
I like all of him. No, we don't analyse each other as well.
We don't step on each other's toes, I think, in public.
And the word I got back is that the group said, we'd like to be with this label. And I was very flattered that of all the people who were after them, that they would come, because it was like, people perceived it as a very unlikely match,
That's
you know,
right.
to be on a label with the kind of two diverse kinds of music like that. But eventually it's still only 12 notes, isn't it?
Was this a lot of accidents in this story then?
Yeah, all accidents. All happens by chance. So Peter Savile's coming to the end of his college course, happens to bump into me at an atrocious Patti Smith gig at the Apollo, awful, and says, you know, I know you do lots of stuff around town. If you ever need any design doing, I'll do it for you. So when we got to begin the club at the very beginning, Alan Erasmus and myself, we began the Factory Club, and we needed a poster. I went to this guy, and he did the poster. The poster went up after the club had closed, and Savile has never been on time since.
Well, the same since, really.
The same is wonderful. A friend of mine told me he'd been 2 months late with the thing before that, which was his first ever commercial job. I should have been warned. You know, so Peter does good, you know, these are beautiful sleeves. I mean, we always had a thing, you know, someone's going to buy something from you. Someone's going to actually have a relationship with you by buying this object. Let's make this object as wonderful as possible. You know, it's like a respect thing. A respect for the punter who's buying your product. So make it beautiful. And here came this designer who would make wonderful, wonderful sleeves and wonderful, wonderful objects. And so we used him. And we all became partners, we worked together, we enjoyed it. And then New Order get tagged with the idea of being faceless because they're clothed in the inscrutable Savile design. They were clothed in the inscrutable Savile design, but there was no conscious theory to do that. But it worked out nice.
It was increasingly obvious that the perception of New Order was the received perception from the packaging.
You know, to me, it just seems like a part of New Order. It's like, I couldn't imagine New Order without Savile, in the same way that I couldn't imagine it without Rob.
I do believe that they're very good at constructing an image. And I think, and part of how good they are in constructing their image is to pretend that they're never constructing an image.
Very rarely do they go, that's nice. Usually, I mean, the best I usually get is that they don't much mind things. Very often in the past they've hated things, but by that time, you know, it's been on sale in the shops or something, so it's too late to change it.
Their attitude about singles and covers and their persistence in terms of really dealing with quality presentation and marketing, you know, with the videos like with Jonathan Demme and all these people. It just fascinated me because they were very serious about the entire way that they were perceived.
Finished.